All right, guys, here we go. We just got the Rainbow Six Siege collab announcement as a PV, and we know that will be happening on the 5th of September. So it is time for me to make the Shiju pool video. This time we don't have the full announcement on X, whatever, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. But I'm doing the video right now because I will be heading overseas to visit family for a few days. So I wanted to get this done, and I'm flying tonight actually. So I want to get this done as soon as possible. So this time our operator is going to be Ella, and some of you might know she is a trap master or whatever that subclass is called. So if you played Rainbow Six Siege, you will probably know a lot of her kit. You can somehow guess it, perhaps. But what does it make her different to operators like Dorothy? Because remember, we already have so many. Even from the previous Rainbow Six Siege collab, we already had Frost, who is also a trap specialist. So what makes her different? Now, first of all, let's take a look at her talents, because that is where all the keys are. So her first talent is that she can use 3 nades, and she can hold at most 4 of them. Now, that is already clearly a difference compared to Dorothy, because Dorothy can hold way more. Also, Dorothy's mine is 3 cost compared to Ella's mines that are 5 cost. The reason being is that for Dorothy's mines, enemies has to step on it, right? But Ella's mine has a trigger radius of 1.35 tiles. So yes, you can place it on an adjacent tile, and when enemies walk nearby, it will still trigger. It is actually a circle that can actually cover like the diagonal tiles as well a little bit. So if you can somehow like push the enemies into it, you can actually trigger it from like not just the directly adjacent tiles, but also the diagonal tiles, which is actually huge. And you don't have to going through all the trouble of, okay, I have to put this mine down before the enemy steps on it and all that stuff. You can even use the mines if enemies are blocked. It's so much more flexible this time around. Now, when the first enemy triggers it, it will trigger the mines, right? Now, the trigger area of this mine is a radius of 1.7 tiles. So that is bigger than the trigger radius. So the effect is actually huge. And then when you retreat her, she will immediately trigger the effect of her current skills mine in that tile. So if you place her down and you retreat her without placing a mine at all, that tile will just explode and then cause the mine effect. Her second talent is that when she attacks, there's a 50% chance to deal 150% of her attack as physical damage. And if the enemies are affected by her mines, that chance becomes 100%. If you're at potential 5, that chance will be increased by another 10%. And if you also are like me and you have the module, then that will increase to 170% or 180% with potential 5. So I mentioned the module, and you must level the module. The reason being is that you will get this new trait where previously you can only place her on a range tile. Now you can place her on a ground tile. And then you can also place mines. Back then you can only place mines on the ground tile, right? But with the module, you can place the mines on a range tile. So you can place her and the mines anywhere on the map. This is so good and makes her so flexible, and you can just play around with so many ways so much better. Also, I would argue that this module is a must if you want to utilize her skill 2 properly as well. So let's take a look at her skills. So her first skill is just a passive skill of a mine, and then when it activates a skill, she will gain 1 more mine. It's very simplistic, and when you have it to M3, it only costs 18 SP, so you will get a mine every 18 seconds. Now, the mine's effect is that when it triggers, all enemies within the area will be slowed, so which is the minus 80% movement speed, and their physical and arts attack accuracy will be decreased by up to 40%, lasts up to 10 seconds. So the accuracy thing is actually a bit different to your typical dodge. Is actually a separate calculation. So let's say if your operator has a 50% dodge rate, right? So when enemy attacks, it will first calculate if it's a miss, or if it's a dodge, or it's a hit. If it's not a dodge, it's a hit, then that's already 50% gone, right? Then it will calculate again by the decreased accuracy. So it's like a double layer. It doesn't stack, it's two different calculations. So personally, I feel like this mine is just really simplistic, and I don't think it's that special enough for her to be using it. I don't really see myself using this skill at all. Like, I don't really see any situation where this skill is just better than the two other skills, because the two other skills are just that much better. Now, her second skill is that when the mines are triggered, all enemies are stunned for 5 seconds. This does not increase to M3, but it does have an increase from skill level 7 to skill M1. So at skill level 7, it's a 4-second stun. For M1 onwards, it's a 5-second stun. Now, when you activate the skill, she will put up a shield and increase her defense by up to 300%. The attack area will decrease by 1 row in front of her, and attacks will do splash physical damage towards the target area and ignore up to 800% of their defense. So basically what this means is if you place her on the ground, activate this skill, she becomes essentially a tank and deals splash damage that ignores 50% of the enemies, like 800 of the enemy's defense. Plus, remember how her skills can increase her attack. If you have the module, it's like 170%. So even though technically speaking, this skill does not increase the attack of her, but because if you use the mines, you can also get a bit more damage, plus the ignoring defense. This skill can actually be a good damage skill as well, like AoE damage skill, which is pretty interesting. Now, if you bring this to M3, the SP requirement will become 16, and you will get an initial SP of 12. So you can deploy her, and it only takes 4 seconds to activate the skill. I was midway like M3ing this, and I think I ran out of skill books. I should really get this done. So this is actually one of the better skills, especially if you have the module. These two goes really well together. But at last, skill 3. So skill 3 is really one of those skills that makes her shine, right? So the skill of the mine is that when the mine is triggered, all enemies in the area will be slowed for 7 seconds and have 35% fragile. Now, usually fragile comes with other operators like Suzudan and Gnosis freezing, right? But her mine can also trigger fragile. But because you can place the mine anywhere, this becomes way more flexible. So if she uses the mine for herself, she will be dealing tons of damage with her own skill because she has high attack. Oh, wait, I have to mention the active skill effect first. So when you activate the skill, her attack duration, her attack interval is decreased by 0.35 seconds, so making her attacks be really quick, and increased her attack by 90%. Now this skill will only have 40 ammo, and she will prioritize enemies that are affected by her mines. And when this skill ends, she will get 2 more mines back. Now, because this is an ammo based skill, you can cancel the skill anytime you want. So you can just trigger this, like activate and then deactivate immediately and wait for another 34 seconds to get 2 more, like just for the mines. Why you want to do that is because you remember how I said that the mines are those, like you can place it anywhere on the map. That means that even though if she attacks enemies like affected by her mine, she deals a ton of damage to a single target, like 100k damage with her single charge of her skill. But the thing is, even though she's such a good single target damage operator on her own, you can also use her mines to buff other operators' damage as well. So you're not only limited to using her as a damage, you can use her as a control operator because she has the 7-second AoE slow. If you can use her as a fragile operator because you can place the mines anywhere. So you can put her on the left side of the map, while on the far right side of the map, you can also just place her mines down to help deal more extra damage because the fragile effect. While typical like damage buff operators like Suzuran, they can only cover the area where they're placed, right? So this is why Ella is such a great operator. Her alone is a great damage operator. In the team, you can use her to deal damage to single target bosses, like single targets like bosses or elites. You can just like clear them out. Or you can use her to aid other operators. You can just play around with so many styles and so many different options for you to have. She's just such a great operator to have. So obviously, oh, I forgot to mention the Shiju pool, but I think by this point everyone understands that Ella is a must pull. It's not just because, oh, limited time operator, collab operator, we probably won't see them in like another 2 years because I think Ash was 2 years ago, but actually because she's such a good operator and I would highly recommend everyone to get her. So now that we're done with her skills and you guys probably know what kind of a way you can use her in which content she is good in. So first of all, let's take a look at normal stages. I'm gonna be honest, in normal stages, she's a great operator, but not a must-have operator. She's like, even though she's really good at what she does, we already have operators like Degen, and then we have Minar. We have so many damage operators now. You don't really need her single target damage anymore, but she is still a great to have if you just want to have like an extra flexible operator that you can just place down either as a melee operator or as a range operator. So that is a great option to have, I would say. And then because of her high single target damage, you can use her to kill most bosses in the game with no issues. Now, in CC though, I don't really see how she can shine because of the fact that she's highly affected by her base attack on how much damage she can do. And with a lot of situations like in CC where you have decreased attack and maybe even decreased SP region, because she requires skill like to recharge to get more mines, decreased SP region also means she gets less mines, so that kind of limits her use cases in CC. In IS though, she is the best specialist to grab right now in my opinion, especially in IS4. She can deal with endings 3 and 4 really easily. You can do ending 2, a lot of mobs you can clear out to prepare for the final boss kill, so you can use her to clear the mobs. The new floor 5 stage, what was it, man-made something, I can't remember the full name of that stage, that really hard stage that got added, Ella makes that stage so much more simple to deal with. So if you play IS like myself, 100% get Ella. She is going to be worth it. And then in RA, I mean, you don't really need her, to be honest. You can just use operators like Dorothy to unveil like areas, and then with Ella, her mind doesn't really unveil any areas, unlike Dorothy's mind. So for a mine operator, you don't really need her. The good thing about her is that you can place her down on ground tiles, and there are a lot of situations in RA where you're limited by how many high ground operators you can place down. So if you want to add her to your roster for RA, I can totally see that working because she is basically a fast shooter. I mean, she's basically a sniper range, but you can place her on the ground. So I don't see anything wrong with that. So if you want to play RA as your main thing, I can actually recommend her in some sense, but not for the higher difficulty content that is coming, because when that mode comes out, or like the highest difficulty comes out, enemies will be so tanky that Ela just won't be able to deal enough damage, and by that point you're mostly gonna be relying on like perma stall strats rather than trying to burst down a single enemy. So I wouldn't recommend Ela for that part of RA. So that being said, I hope you guys have made up your mind of how you're going to be using her, because I know all of you are going to be like, well, duh, obviously we're going to pull for her, you dumb. I wouldn't say the last word, but you get what I mean. I know you guys will say that, but the reason I make these videos is not just to tell you if you want to pull her or not, but also why you want to pull her and how you would use her, because just pulling, everyone loves pulling, right? We all gacha. We all love to pull, but how you want to utilize her is something that you can really think about, and I would love to hear from you guys. Like, how are you going to use her? Are you going to like level her up ASAP and just jump into IS like me, or are you just gonna just pull and then think about how you want to use her down the road? So that being said, I hope you guys have a great luck pulling her. Don't forget, we will be getting 10 free pulls, and we will be guaranteed a copy of her at 120 pulls. So if you don't have 110 pulls yet, probably figure out a way to get that. And I'll see you guys when the banner is actually out. Bye.